All right, so today we're diving into a story that's was pretty grim, honestly, and definitely strange. It's about a stowaway found in the landing gear of a plane on Christmas Eve, no less.
Yeah.
And the plane had landed in Hawaii.
Wow.
You're probably thinking, I mean, how is that even possible?
Right.
Yeah. And can someone even survive that? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so that's exactly what we're going to try to unpack today. What we know so far, at least about this whole mysterious thing.
Absolutely.
So, just from the news reports, we know that it was United Airlines Flight 202.
Okay.
It was a Boeing 787-10.
Ah, the Dreamliner.
And it took off from Chicago O'Hare and was headed to Maui, Kahului Airport.
Beautiful destination. Tragic circumstances, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where, after it landed, they made the discovery in the plane's landing gear compartment.
Yeah.
In the wheel well, to be specific.
The wheel well. That detail, the 787, that kind of jumps out at me right away because the 787 with that larger, more complex landing gear, it's a whole different ball game for a stowaway compared to, some of those older aircraft.
I honestly hadn't even thought about that. So is the 787 like more appealing to a stowaway or less?
Well, think about it this way. The 787's landing gear, it's all designed to tuck in really tight, right? For better, aerodynamics and all that. So maybe that means there are more little spots to, hide. But on the flip side, it also means it's way more cramped and dangerous in there.
And then there's the whole issue of what it's actually like inside that wheel well. It's not like, they're designing those for passengers.
You got it. It's brutal. I mean, you're talking extreme freezing temperatures up at those altitudes, not to mention barely any oxygen. And there's always the danger of the landing gear itself crushing you.
Oh, geez.
The odds of surviving all that, well, they're slim to none. I mean, there are a handful of cases where people have lived, but it's really like defying all odds.
It's hard to wrap your head around, like, what would push someone to even try something like that?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have the specifics on this case, of course, but generally speaking, with stowaways, it's usually a lot of different factors all mixed together. Things like real desperation because of money problems, or maybe they're fleeing from conflict, or even, persecution back in their home country. It drives people to do desperate things.
So it's more than just like security failings at the airport.
Oh, airport security is critical, absolutely. But even with all the checkpoints and scanners and everything, well, someone who's really determined can find a weak spot. This case, who knows? Maybe it'll show there's a specific flaw with the 787, or maybe a problem with how they're doing maintenance. It'll be interesting to see what the investigation turns up.
Right. It does feel like right now we're just left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
So what happens next in these investigations?
Well, usually both the airline and the police get involved.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and they'll be trying to figure out who this person was, retrace their steps before the flight, and they'll be combing through security footage to try and understand how they even got past security in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of was a pretty heavy thing to think about, especially during the holidays. It's supposed to be, a happy time, and
Okay.
this is just a sad reminder of the stuff that's happening that we don't always see.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
tragic, no question. But it does make you think about the desperation some people must feel, that they're willing to risk everything, just for a shot at a different life. It really makes you stop and think.
Well said.
Thank you.
And that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive.